back, everybody.
Hey, everybody, we're here and we're ready to talk about pretty boys who get book deals easily and how when we bring it up, the world thinks we're mad at the pretty boy, not the people responsible.
The poor pretty boy, so abused. Yeah. Anyway. All right, everybody, welcome to As the Pages Turn. Again, this is supposed to be a politics episode, but forget it. And
we'll get to politics eventually.
It's a whole thing. Anyways, our next episode, our next episode won't even be politics because there's so much popping up in the book world that, like, me and Crystal don't have enough time in the day. I'm just saying, we don't have enough time in the day. So we're going to be doing this episode about Luke Bateman and his response and some other stuff and some
I will say this real quick. Politics will come back eventually. We're just trying to talk about this stuff when it's really big in the realm of the book world, specifically because there are some things we want to get the word out about now, and we have to do it now while the subject's hot.
So basically, we have this episode about Luke Bateman. Our last episode is about the AML Part 3. May we never have to talk about that subject. I mean, I doubt we'll have that grace, but like, let's hope.
Well, in all truth, if AML shows up again on this channel, it's because something really good happened because we are tired of these authors being abused.
I want some kind of good announcement from that crap. So anyways, and then our next episode will actually be a 3-part face view of everything. We're doing the facials. We're going to be talking to a lovely author, a lovely editor, and a lovely narrator. And because we've kind of been talking about, in different videos, we've had to break down like, oh, this is what goes on in the author world. And this is some of what narrators go through. And I was like, why don't we bring in, we have a new author who's going to be published very soon. We have an editor who's done quite a few things. And we have a narrator who's kind of not getting started, but like he's been working hard and getting on it. So I was like, why don't we bring in people from each group and kind of go through the rigmarole, ask them questions. I am not promising there will not be tangents and zaniness, because tangents and zaniness are kind of
our thing. That's why we even started doing this.
Because we go on tangents. So basically, we wanted to kind of show the people who average listen and kind of show you like what goes on in each field. What are the ups? What are the downs? Because I'm very much a person of like, I don't want to hear just all the good stuff. I want to hear like, what are the obstacles? What have you had to go through in this field to get where you are? Like, what are those like bumps and cracks that you've had to navigate around? Because I think what makes us the best of whatever we're doing is the obstacles we have to get there. So it's not just going to be, I mean, we are going to have some fluffy questions. We are going to have some, I'm not going to say it, they're not evil questions, but they're definitely hard choice questions.
Yeah,
and then we're going to have some fun ones. So we're going to do a little bit of everything. So that's going to be a 3-part kind of a series. We'll have a narrator.
A 3-part continuous series that we're going to have, because this isn't going to end with our guests. We're going to have more authors, narrators, and other people in this industry, because as people who are a part of this industry, we feel more people like us, in addition to us, need to have our voices out there to give people more of a perspective of what really goes on, because we have friends, and I think maybe because we're talking about Luke Bateman today, I think they have this view that it is 1, 2, 3 easy to get a deal from a publisher after so many rejections. The same way we're having our narrator friend on, it's what people probably think, oh, it's 1, 2, 3 easy to get a voice acting deal after you voice acted a little bit. And the truth is, this stuff is extremely hard. We have met incredibly talented authors and narrators still struggling to get viewership, and that's not their fault.
Get their stuff out. And so it's like there's a lot of stuff that I think regular people don't know about the field, and there's stuff we're still finding out every day, but we want to kind of bring you that in depth. And so we're going to be having a lot of guests on as we go through, because we're not just going to be we're books and politics, but we're a lot of both. And so we might even try to get some politics guests on here too. I'm not sure about that, but we'll see.
One day, Mia. One day.
Right. We have a lot of people in a lot of areas, and I have someone I want to get on here, and I don't even know if it's possible, but we'll talk about that later for politics. I have kind of a secret wish list. So anyway, but today today's episode, besides all that, today's episode is about Luke Bateman because we talked about this when it first came out. And I want to mention that like we were some of the first two that I saw talking about it. Our episode didn't get released until kind of after the hubbub started. But we actually, when we recorded that episode, we had talked about a lot of the issues. Like I think we said kind of the same thing everybody else in Booktok said. So if you don't remember, here's a recap, everybody. Luke Bateman is I guess now a Booktok influencer person, author thing. But he was a former Bachelor star. He was a former, at Rugby. He was a former rugby player.
Thank you. I keep calling rugby lacrosse. I'm sorry, rugby fans. I just keep doing that.
So he was a former, which rugby is a national thing outside America. So his name was definitely known. Okay, his face was known. So he came on to Booktok. Within a month, he got super famous. Like he did a few reviews. He talked a little bit and of course he has adorable rugged looks, so everybody loves it. And then within a month, he had 2 million views on his first video. One thing led to another. The team behind him got lots of offers from, I guess there was more than one, by the way. There was more than one publisher that kind of said, hey, we're interested, because he talked about in one of them about how he was a writer or something like that. So then we find out that he announces that he got this 2-book deal from Atria, which is a kind of a child company or sub company, I don't even know what the fuck to call it, of Simon & Schuster, which is one of the big 5 publishers that if you want to be traditionally published, you want them, Penguin House. There's several companies. Okay. So he comes out and he explodes and gets this deal. And it took Booktok, I think, a few days to react because I think people were kind of digesting it and like, really? And so as we had talked about on our last episode about this, which please go find that episode, listen to it, like it, subscribe, all that good stuff.
Like, comment, subscribe, people.
So when we had talked about it on that episode, one of our biggest things is we're not trying to hate on the guy, but it is just
we're really not.
We're not. I mean, yes, he has said some things since then that are a little irritating.
He said some irritating things, but really he's not. I'm going to say he is not all the other authors in us. He's not our target.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, we're referencing him a lot because, we got annoyed when he said, oh, I'm so shocked I had a book deal, when we're like, buddy, we know you have a marketing team. Just don't.
Right.
It's not that. That's just mild annoyance.
Yeah.
What we're irritated with is the publishing companies.
Yeah. And so a lot of Booktok went off about this. And so some people were like, I guess supposedly, I did hear that one person was like, well, I wouldn't have taken the deal if I were him. And I was like, dude, nobody, when I heard that, I was literally laughing because I'm like, nobody who gets this deal is not going to take it. I don't care who you are.
Exactly.
You are going to take this deal.
They wouldn't.
Like if they walked up to me and said, I'll give you a 2-book deal, I would be like, yes, where do I sign my name? And also, but I would read the contracts because I'm super paranoid about contracts.
Well, I'd ask how much am I going to get paid for it?
Right.
And if they tell me a suitable number, I'd be like, where do I sign? Yes, I need to check because heaven knows if you don't check, they'll put some very offensive things in your book without your knowledge.
We'll get to the contracts of publishing houses. That'll be a topic for later.
There's really a lot to cover here.
So for Luke Bateman, the response it took a few days. And so when we had talked about it, we hadn't seen him respond. We hadn't really seen the hubbub, and then the hubbub exploded. And a lot of Booktok, obviously, you have BIPOC authors who were upset. You had women authors you had just a lot of people who have been working their butts off for years to even get into a publishing house, to even get their stuff noticed on independent author Booktok, let alone a traditional company. And so a lot of people were upset about this because realistically, it's like this guy has been on here a month. What has he done except a few reviews? And that's it. He's done a few reviews.
He also has a concept of a book.
I know. And that was a big thing because I think, especially when he presented this to everybody, he was like, yeah, I gave them the concept of my book. And I don't think he realized, and this is why I say a lot of people, despite his irritating comments, which we'll talk about next, but despite those comments, him acting like him saying, well, like I had this concept, they're really excited, and that's great. But I don't think he understood what he was saying because literally what he was saying.
We're not allowed to have concepts of a book. Even let's say you and I decide to digitally publish, we better not walk up to those publishers with a concept of a book. We can't go and say, oh, I have this book idea. It's really good, without the type of marketing Luke Bateman has. Because if we go to a publishing house and tell them, hey, we have a concept, they're going to be like, well, write it the hell down and then we'll think about it.
Exactly. And that's the thing, is it's not even the writing down the concept, because him sitting there and saying, I have a concept, they loved it, they offered me a deal. That's great. But really what you're saying is
what I meant when I said write it down. I mean, write the book and then they'll think about it. We can't just bring them a concept. We have to bring a story. Actually, we have to go to literary agents, but we'll get into that later.
Okay, so 2 seconds. Anyway, I know it's very messy.
It's like explaining how to do this at the same time explaining the reactions. There's a lot, like we said, there is a lot in this industry people don't realize, because concepts of a book, you need to understand. If you tell me you have concepts of a book, I'll tell you to fucking write it and then come back to me.
Well, the thing is, and the way it is that you can't even as an author, especially BIPOC authors, but even as a regular like woman author, you can't just take a concept to a company and get a book deal. That's not how it works. It just isn't.
It really does.
You have to usually, actually, it's not even you write it and send it to them. You have to write it, have it edited, send it out to beta, have it.
Well, it has to go through the query letter first if you're doing.
Well, not even the query letter, Crystal, because you have to have, a lot of times what you get told in this field is you have to have more than 2 books, especially if you want to do a series. So like 1 book is one thing, but if you're doing, like, he has a 2-book deal for a 5-book series that he wants to do, right? You can't even, usually for most basic bitch people, let's say it that way, for most basic people, we have to have both those books published. Like if we were trying to do a 5-book series, we would have to have at least 3 of those books published. They would have to be edited. We would have to have an agent. We would have to do query letters. We would have to do, there is 5 million things you have to do before you even get.
Not just edited. You have to have it seen by the different types of editors. You have to find a line editor. What's that other editor?
Line editor, copy editor, dev editor. You literally have to have it. Yeah. So you have to have it run through. So you can't just, there is nobody in this business who is a regular person.
Plus proofreaders and art readers.
Well, yeah.
Let me depart upon you a little age-old wisdom. You can only beat down on a person for so long before they finally strike back. Violet Evergreen in The Seeds of Rebellion, available now.
But like, there's nobody who is in this field who can just give a concept or 1 book, especially for a book series. You have to have 2 or 3 of the books published. You have to have all this stuff done before you can even get looked at by traditional publishers. And so that's why I don't think he understood the match he was lighting in that sentence, because he's like, oh yeah, I showed him a concept. They loved it. They gave me a 2-book deal. That is not how it works, or how we've been told it works, right?
Well,
but for him,
how it works for us regular folks.
Exactly. But because he got noticed and he got 2 million views on his video and this, that, and the other. So that whole thing exploded, right? So before we go on too many more tangents. So then Booktok exploded. Booktok had a lot to say. There was a lot of people, and I think a lot of the people stressed. They were not upset with him. They wished him the best. They were upset with the publishing houses who have spent months and years and years and years telling everybody else who's a regular person, oh no, this is what you have to do. These are the hoops you have to jump. But for this person who just came on, looked pretty, and did 5 reviews, oh no, it's a different standard for you. You're pretty, so let's just give you a book deal. That's all it was.
Which isn't good, especially when you think about literally everybody else who has full-blown stuff. Because like I said, we are told to have the product. If we want to traditionally publish, we have to write a query letter. And even I know after the query letter, it doesn't end there, because you have to find a literary agent who will then try to get you to a publisher. Like I said, there is a lot of hoops. We have to do that. All he had to do was go to a publisher and say, I have.
He didn't even have to go to them. After he was on there for a month, he got 2 or 3 offers from different so he didn't even really have to go to them. But actually, that's something we'll talk about.
He was talking about how 6 months
we will.
He had pitched his idea.
We're gonna get it. Yeah, we're gonna get into that.
Okay.
So first, people were obviously upset about the publishing thing because it's so clear. And what's funny is the publishing house has been saying for years that there isn't a double standard, that we just have to work hard and put the medals to the gears and we'll get it. But clearly there is a double standard,
work
right?
Hard, Mia.
And so,
you and Maya have been working hard for several fucking years. What do you mean work hard?
Right? Like, we had to work hard for the money, but like this guy didn't, right? And then, so again, a lot of people were stressing they weren't mad at him, they were mad at the publishing company, right?
Yeah, all this outrage you guys are hearing about is not really us hardcore targeting Luke Bateman. Yes, we laugh at what he says because it's really just annoying when you've been in the field to hear that from a noob, because we talk to new baby authors all the time. They just ask us for advice. They ask us what to expect. They ask us what they should be preparing for, and they may be telling us what they are trying to do. But to hear somebody who is a baby author, and yes, we call new authors our baby authors because they're our babies, to hear from a baby author with this high and mighty, I have a concept of a book. That's the most obnoxious thing. I have never once heard from a baby author saying, I have a concept. They'd be telling me what's about and how they're working on it.
Yeah. Usually we're all working on stuff. And so the thing is like, for this to happen, obviously Booktok was going to react. And so, but here's the problem. So again, when it first started, it wasn't really aimed at him. It was aimed at the publishers. But I can see how a lot of people outside Booktok would see the rage and be like, why are you guys so mad? You're just jelly, blah, blah, blah. And
are we like an ex-girlfriend?
And so we understand like that's how it can look, but that's not what it was. But then here's the problem. Luke Bateman did a response, which, by the way, I think he deleted because I can't find it.
I think he should stop responding because that's his problem.
He had a response video and I can't find it now. And I want to say that I heard he deleted it, but I'm not. He could have just privated it. So he had a response video.
We're not going to comment on his response video because we can't show you guys. But we
we have a comment from it because I found stitches of it. So that's why I'm saying we can't actually comment on it because I saw stitches of what he said. So what he said was so in his comment thing, right? And he said this in articles since. So basically his response was, I really didn't understand why people were upset. And I'm really here to help people. And I really want to promote people and lift people up, which is a great response. Okay, give him, I'll give him
but that. He kept talking.
Yeah, well, that he kept talking. So then basically, like, he tried to say that he's like, in one comment, he said, I've actually spoken with a few people. I was speaking with a Latino woman, which, by the way, when he said Latino, there were a lot of Latinx or Latina women who corrected this authors because they said if you're speaking to a Latin author, it's either going to be Latinx or a Latina. It's not going to be Latino, by the way. So he said,
threw me off when you first told me about it because you said Latino woman. I was like, wait,
that's what he said. That's literally, so the quote was, he was speaking to a Latino woman yesterday who was sharing her story, and she was actually saying she was just at a conference on the weekend, and the authors there were saying how publishers had told them to publish under different names or do stories. I won't quote because I can't remember exactly what she said, but basically do stories that would fit more into a different audience. And so he said that the conversations he's been having have been eye-opening, and he's planning to review and promote books for marginalized authors, which, by the way, let me be clear, to this point, and I checked out his profile, he has not done yet. So maybe he has plans
for a, what was it, popular white female author.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, that's pretty much the only thing he's done so far. So
as he gets, apparently.
So yes, I mean, I have hope. But see, the comment that really upset people in the stitch that was, so like I said, you can't find the original video, but you can find this stitch in a lot of places. He had said, I want to uplift people, I want to help them. But then there was this one comment, and that's what actually got people irritated with him, was that he said there is no barrier to entry for reading or writing. And this is a huge problem. And my thing is, you want to sit there and be an author. That's great. I fully support him. Hey, he got a book deal. That's awesome. But here's the problem. When you sit there and say there is no barrier to entry for reading and writing, and you clearly have not researched this, when there's so much evidence to I could literally do a 5-minute Google search, people, and find evidence contrary to this. So he just kind of spouted it out there, and I think he thought it would be like, well, everybody can read and write. Well, that's not actually true. Well, especially in America. And again, he is in Australia. Maybe, well, actually, from what I'm reading, they have way more barriers there. But in America, in low-income areas, especially low-income areas with BIPOC citizens, it is hard. There is not enough money for libraries. There's not enough money for like parents. Literally, parents have had to go out and buy all the fucking school supplies because schools don't even have money to buy shit anymore. So like there are barriers.
Yeah, we're talking about in the US. You think about other countries. There are many, many countries who kids can't even dream about going to school and learning to read or write because their parents can't afford the school fee. That's why I can't remember this reporter's name, but he started the Kind Fund just to try to get more of these little girls in a country into, my goodness, that went out of my head, and I've donated to that fund more than once after researching it.
It's okay. Anyway, we can find it later, but it's
yeah, like, I'm gonna just slap it up here. Anyway, my point is that he did it to keep the girls in school, and the whole reason why I'm even bringing this up is because there are a lot of barriers to read and write, and you know, for him to be that arrogant about it just makes people feel like, what the hell, dude?
Yeah. It's this whole idea that it's this whole idea that in his head, well, everybody can read and write, but that's not true, because literally there's so many people in low income areas in the United States, in rural areas and third world country. Like there's so many countries that have low income issues, especially the United States has a lot of low income issues, and there is a lot of barriers, and especially for minorities like Black and Latino, and there's lots of populations that have problems with getting access to a good education, especially. Exactly. And I was like, when I was doing this on TikTok, I was sharing the story that I grew up in a crime area. I grew up in a low income area that had a diverse population, and our library had books that were like half torn up, and they couldn't get money to replace them. That's just what they had. They had to conserve their money for things that they could use it for. So it's like, you can't sit here and say there's no barrier when there is so many barriers.
Exactly. Especially, my brother even goes to a lot of Black high schools to try to speak to the kids and even donate a lot, because he knows that he and I were fortunate to grow up in a house in an area with money to get our education, but we know others did not have that convenience, and he always made a point to do that because he wanted more Black kids from low income areas to have more of a shot.
And that's the thing. And then when you break it down into more of like the publishing companies and authors, I mean, we like just even looking at a few statistics for the publishing world. I mean, there's the basics. Let's not even talk about, because I found statistics of the Australian population too.
Oh, but like, boy, that was
for published authors, there is like in 2022 they had a percentage of 81% that were white authors, and it was 5 to 7% for Black and Hispanic authors trying to make their mark. Now there was another statistic that said that 72.5% of the book industry was white. So basically between 70 and 80 something percent, you have a majority here of white authors. Now, even in the latest last 10 years, which I look at as a good thing, there are now more women authors than men authors, but that was only as of 10 or 15 years ago. So until 10 or 15 years ago, this field was predominantly owned by white guys. And I'm not saying it's the white guys' fault, but I'm saying this field was the majority was white male authors. Why?
Yeah, we can technically still blame them because he's the head of the publishing industry.
Well, we can blame the publishing houses because
we won't blame the authors, we'll blame the publishers, because that's what really our community has been doing more since the story hit. We've been looking at these publishers saying, hey, what is up with this?
Yeah. And so there's this thing about there's been several facts about the fact that or several points about the fact that in the last 10 to 15 years, yes, the traditional publishing field is slowly changing, but it's not even, but again, if you think about it, okay, 2022 was 82%. And the most recent statistic was 2023, 2024 to 72%. That is a bit of a drop. I don't even know if those are accurate though. But again, that's still if you average that out, you have 75 to 76% of the field is dominated by white people, which leaves 20 to 30% that are all minorities trying to get up, they're trying to get seen. And then there's this idea, and this is something that I've even heard said, but not to me, but I've had authors tell me this, that there's a lot of people who have been told by publishing houses, literally, I think think this is like the way it's worded is disgusting about what they've been telling people. But like basically the fact, like what authors have been told, especially BIPOC authors, is that, oh, well, there's no market for your stuff. There's no, like, for example, I don't know that I'll pronounce these right, so I apologize ahead of time. But
we'll slap the name on the screen just in case.
Yeah, so Teo Jing Zon, I'm terrible with names, I admit it, and Marina Sano, who are co-founders of the Amplify bookstore in Melbourne, which only stock books written by Black, Indigenous, or people of color, talked about the fact that it was basically said that to them, that they have heard this said. So Juan had stated, "You're giving a white man a platform based on no merit and no prior proof of sales," which is what people hear often in publishing. Oh, you want a book by a person of color? Well, that's not going to sell. And that's what it's just, and that's terrible. Like, basically, that's what a lot of authors have heard is that, oh, if you are a BIPOC author, so if you're Black or Latino or Indigenous or anything in between, well, your book's not going to sell because the market doesn't want it. And that's the implication. Well, the market is more interested in 80% of white people than it is in anything else, which to me sounds like bullshit. But that's the problem, because
they're gonna, even if you can get somebody who's white to maybe write a book that's not offensive about minorities, even if you can get the publisher to publish it, they're gonna take a lot of the stuff out to go with some kind of pre-decided thing they think will sell. And if it goes anywhere else, they're gonna whitewash the hell out of it, whether you like it or not.
And so it's this idea that, like, a lot of BIPOC authors are getting told, oh, well, your stuff isn't going to sell because the market doesn't want it. But that's not the truth. And this is something I've talked about for years, because like one of my favorite authors is like Anne McCaffrey or Anne Rice. And one of my favorite examples is actually Anne Rice and Vampire Books, because Anne Rice had talked about, and I forget what interview it is, she had mentioned this, I don't know if it was late 90s or early 2000s. She had talked about how when she first tried to sell her book, get her book sold by traditional publishers, she was straight out told, nobody wants to read vampire books. And look at it now, like there's 80,000 of them, right?
Vampires and so it's on the rise. They're so on the rise. I'm working on 2 vampire books right now. I am. I published one of them.
I know, but see, that's the thing, is that the traditional market, the traditional publishing market, is the one who sets these self-imposed rules. But here's the funny thing, and it was talked about by these two who run this bookstore for BIPOC authors. They talked about the fact that it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's basically, okay, you publish 80% of white authors. That's what the market is reading, because you're not giving them a chance to read any people of color. You're not giving them a chance to get that exposure. And here's the thing, how are they going to know they want to read it if they don't fucking see it? Like, come on now.
That's the plan. They're like, well, we're going to hide it from you because you're not going to want to read it anyway. What is it? We're not going to tell you because we decided that you're not going to read it. And really, that's just disgusting. But the industry has always done shit like that.
Yes. I mean, let's talk about, like, this happened in what, the 1940s and 1950s when Wonder Woman came out. Because, by the way, if you don't know the story of the Wonder Woman comics, you should really look it up because it's very fucking fascinating. But there was a certain idea behind Wonder Woman, and I won't get into it. But basically, there was this idea behind Wonder Woman, and some Christian society, conservator, whatever, censorship. I think it was like the Christian Censorship Society, whatever. It was some bullshit society that helped censor TV and book publications. And they literally fucking at one point lit a bonfire with Wonder Woman comics because it had too many sexual suggestions in it. And so there's this whole bullshit thing that basically the traditional publishing company, for like those companies for years, have been dominated by what supposedly society has told them they want. But that's the thing. If you're not putting anything out there and you're only listening to one group that is telling you what shit, and I'm not saying this group exists anymore, but I'm saying there's very much this idea that the society controls publishing houses, and what society says go. And it's only been recently, and a lot of this I will say is because of Booktok, but it's because of authors like Anne Rice and Anne McCaffrey and a lot of these women authors who started in the 60s and 70s trying to write books, and even like Jane Austen, who by the way had to write like under, I believe she wrote under a male pseudonym if I remember, like she had a male name.
I believe her brothers had to help her get it published.
Yeah, so it's like a lot of these women, a lot of people had to do a lot of shit for us to get to this point, to be able to get stuff even out as women, let alone BIPOC women and authors, right? And so the thing is, it's like, again, I am not saying, like, yes, he said some irritating things, and we're also going to talk about a little susness in some of the stuff he said.
We are going to talk about what he said, but to understand, this is more because what he said keys into the problem with the industry so hard that all this stuff with him is really authors reacting to the unfairness and the bullshit this industry pulls.
Yeah, because it's not his fault that the industry has these standards. That's not. But like
he's arrogant about it, and I wish, I really, to be honest, all I asked Luke Bateman to do is some basic research and realize why what he said actually aggravated the other authors. Because if he would do that and come from a spot of understanding, we wouldn't be annoyed by him. We're not angry. We're just mildly, very annoyed, because that whole reading and writing is like everybody can do it thing is just like, oh my goodness, dude, you don't think about the world. But besides the point, if he did some basic research, he would understand where the animosity is really coming from.
And then the other point of this is, so this is where we get to the part where there has been some videos about this where people are like, no, we're also kind of irritated with him, and here's this part. So this part's going to be, so really though, I will say most of the videos out about this have been focused on this is bullshit at the publishing field. It's not really at him. It's like, okay, well, congratulations.
There are some people who want to be cheesed off about him getting this deal, which me and I don't give a shit about him getting the deal.
So the thing is that it's not, again, most of the videos out there are directed towards the publishing field. But there have been some interesting videos diving into the fact of some of his stuff is not matching up. And this is why we say not matching up. So basically, and by the way, I'm going to tell you this, I read no less than like 20 articles on this shit. I was searching for this.
She did, and then she sent them to me to read.
Yes. So there was somebody who had mentioned to me, a friend of ours on Booktok, who had mentioned to me, oh, he actually said that he reached out to a publisher before and pitched the book to them and didn't hear back. And I'm like, I haven't seen that anywhere. So I went through articles after articles. I could not find it. And then so I actually went back to that friend and I was like, I can't find it. Like, I need links. So he gave me a link and I found it. So here was the comment. And by the way, a Yahoo lifestyle article, and it's nowhere else. I have not fucking found it anywhere else. But it's very interesting because I think the reason why he even said it in this article is because the whole tone of the article was Yahoo, the person who was writing it, was going to him like, well, this is overnight. This you really didn't. They kind of implied he really hadn't done anything to deserve it, right? So I think he was trying to justify why he deserved this 2-book deal, kind of. And so he told them, and this is quote, I found this. So I reached out to a publisher and pitched the book to them, and they never got back to me. Then all these TikToks took off, and my management company, and didn't I say he had a fucking management company, reached out to a few publishers and said, hey, Luke has a book he'd like to pitch. Would you be interested? And then he got the deal, right? But here's the interesting thing. I have only found this in that one article. It was not stated anywhere else. And I would bet my fucking money that his management company read that article after the fact and was like, dude, you can't fucking say that, because here's why. Some people found this article and talked about it. And it was like, wait a minute. So 6 months before you went viral on Booktok, you tried to go to a couple publishing companies. You didn't hear back, which is, by the way, a very common response for a lot of us, right?
Yeah, a lot of us didn't hear back. Hear silence.
So then he conveniently goes to Booktok and says a few key words, does this cute homie farm boy act, which I don't know, that I'm not saying it's an act, but it kind of comes across one once you hear this. And then suddenly he's viral, and then he's smart enough, he tells his management company, oh, maybe you should poke him again, see what happens, and then he gets his book deal. Isn't that interesting?
Very interesting. Mia, I have a confession.
Okay.
when we did our first Luke Bateman episode, it was my cousin's birthday. So we went to dinner at a very tasty Ethiopian restaurant, but that's besides the point. Mm-hmm. So during dinner, I tell them about the Luke Bateman thing. Half my family says a ghostwriter is going to write that whole book for him. The other half is convinced AI is going to write the book for him. None of them believe he will write, mostly because he kept saying he can't wait to start writing the book.
I know. And that's also another comment of, and this is kind of what led to the fury of Booktok, because when he did this announcement, right, he was like, oh, I gave them this concept. So here's the thing. I understand why the publishing company ignored him the first time, because if you go to them with just, it doesn't matter who you are, if you go to them with just the concept, they're not there for it. They want the actual
really
book,
don't give a shit about your concepts. They want you to have written that.
But then he conveniently goes to Booktok. And so there were suggestions in some videos I saw, and I'm going to give them credit. I think there might be something to this because, again, he has a marketing team. He has a management company. I think he was in talks with them. So he did it 6 months before, right? I have my little conspiracy theory, and this is allegedly because there's a little bit of proof, but not a lot.
Allegedly, people. Allegedly. We know the mumbo jumbo now.
Man, that word is going to get real annoying really fast. Anyway.
Oh, I'm going to slap it in several videos. Not this one, but it'll be in several videos.
So allegedly, I think what happened is he had this idea. So he's done The Bachelor. And by the way, he actually won that Bachelor, hooked up with that chick, and then they broke up like 5 months later. Anyways, he did that.
Relationships.
Right.
They never last most of the time.
Actually, there's a few that have, but very few. It's like 2%.
Most of the time. Sorry, probably didn't hear me.
Yeah. So he basically went to them 6 months before. Then I bet you he was in talks with his team, and they're like, well, Booktok, because this was the thing. He even said it in his first video. Oh, I know that this is predominantly what he even fucking said that in his first video. But he said it in a very, very adorable farm boy kind of way. Basically, I think he was in talks with his company, and he was like, I really want to do a book. This is an idea. How do I do it? And they're like, well, Booktok has a very large women fandom, and they like the gentleman. And they like book boyfriends. So why not put yourself on there? And I'm not saying it was malicious. He was just trying to make some money. Hey, nobody can blame him for that. But it's interesting. But it's interesting that 6 months before he couldn't get a word back. So he's like, oh, I'm going to go on Booktok and see what happens. And then immediately 2 million views and all this notoriety. And then he's smart enough to go back and do it again. So I don't know that he used Booktok, but between that comment and some of the other comments, it's really hard not to look at all those things put together like a puzzle and say, wait a minute. So basically you got ignored, you got upset, and then you went to Booktok, used Booktok, and used the women of Booktok to get your name out there so then you could do a book and not have to actually do any work. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, because that's insulting. And this is my personal feelings on the subject. My personal feelings are he learned that there were a lot of women and really a lot of white women on Booktok, like you said, fangirling over pretty boys in books, because how many times have we heard about the book boyfriend? He knew it, and he figured, well, I'll come on here, say this, and I'll be popular enough for them to give me the deal. And he did, and boom, he got it. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. And that's why it's like, that's why I think some of the tone has popped up at him, and not so much. It's also at the publishing companies. It is still there. But I think people are now kind of stepping back and saying, wait a minute. So you didn't get a response. You didn't like that, obviously. Like who likes to be ignored? Nobody. That's the basic human thing. And then you went to Booktok, and then conveniently a month later you got. But so it's like, it's just feeling a little squicky. Again, I am not saying that he doesn't deserve. I mean, actually, I kind of feel like now he doesn't. But anyways, besides that,
he doesn't. But who cares? That's the business. He's not even the one we're mad at.
He worked really hard to make sure he could get this book, right? But but the problem is what he's doing kind of this wide-eyed farm boy act of like, oh, I'm so humbled, I'm so surprised.
To be honest, I really wish he would stop doing that.
Yeah, it's like, I don't understand where the wide-eyed, I'm so humbled, I'm so grateful, I just want to uplift people, when then you have that act in front of you, but then you have this other personality of 6 months before he tried to get a book deal, couldn't get a book deal. It took him 6 months to it sounds like his team researched Booktok, and then he went on it for kicks and found it. And so it's like some of these puzzle pieces aren't matching. So again, I'm going to state for the record, we're not super fucking mad at him, but it's just interesting that, like, I'm almost glad this actually happened, because I think it puts out there,
because this helps push the conversation of what the publishing industry does more forward. Because when I first published my first couple of books, my friends were like, oh, what about your publisher? And I said, I don't have a publisher. And they were like, what do you mean you don't have a publisher? And I had to explain what indie books were. And then other people are like, oh, who's your publisher? And I'm like, I don't have a publisher, because people are confused by independent book publishing. But even when I told them I don't have a publisher, they were like, why? And when I explained query letters and all of that, they didn't want to hear anymore because they felt exhausted by me explaining that. And I get it, only because it is a lot. But this whole Luke Bateman thing, I'm kind of happy about the outrage, not at him. People, leave that alone. And you know he's going to say stuff that annoys you when he does his wide-eye farm boy act. He's going to say annoying stuff with that. Just ignore him with that. But
the thing is that I don't think we should ignore it, though, because I think part of the problem here.
I mean, don't make it your whole world, in the sense that it becomes the main point of the conversation. But
the thing is that I think we need to. I mean, yes, I think the main issue here is that we need to hold publishers accountable. That they're sitting there telling BIPOC authors and women authors, well, no, you need to give us a basic. Basically, they're telling the basic poor people and the BIPOC people, oh, well, you guys need to sit there and you need to do 3 books and query letters, and here's this hoop and that hoop and that hoop.
Have to do more than 3 when you think about it.
Right. But then you let somebody who showed his face for 5 minutes and did, like, what, 6 book reviews, maybe 7. And I get it. Like, I was impressed that he actually, like, advertised Robin Hobb, because that's not a lot of people know. But if you're a fantasy author, or you're somebody who's been reading fantasy like I have, Robin Hobb is fucking awesome. She has some awesome fucking series. So, like, I'm happy that he knows who that is. But at the same time, you did 6 or 7 reviews, and then you got a fucking big deal, and you got it based on a concept. And that's infuriating. You are an author who has been working for fucking years, especially a BIPOC author who has been working for fucking years. That is fucking irritating.
Yeah, because I am one, and I've been working for fucking years. Where is my validation? Where is my, oh, we love your book, we're gonna publish it after seeing it once? Where is that? And it's not just me. I have several Black friends who in the publishing industry, since I've been on TikTok and even go into a lot of events. They bust their asses trying to get people to say, hey, I'm interested in your book. And it's like, what the heck? Because a lot of times people just look at our books up and down and they'll say, oh, it's all over the place, or I don't feel that everything. They don't even want to hear the concept of what the story is about.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is like, you don't, if you're a low income person, or you're a BIPOC person, or even some of the women authors, not all of us, but there are some
of the women authors, but we will say even some of the lower income male authors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
In general.
But it's hard to even get your stuff noticed or liked or out there. And so, of course, like, I was kind of, my thing was, when everybody was like, I don't understand why Booktok's so mad. And I saw that a few times, by the way. And I was like, I don't understand how you guys don't think we're upset. Like, I don't understand how you didn't know this was coming, because honestly, you're coming into the Booktok, a lot of, like, half of Booktok is the indie author world. That's where we live. That's where we put out our shit. That's where we go on lives to talk about our stuff for hours on end. This is where we put our shit out. This is where we're sitting there writing a book, and we're on a live talking to readers and other authors when they come in. So, like, why you didn't think we weren't going to be upset about publisher companies fucking treating us badly, because that's what this comes down to. They were like, oh, look, there's a pretty boy with a few book reviews, let's give him a book deal. But these 20 fucking BIPOC authors who have been working their asses off for years, nah, they can wait. Nobody's interested because there aren't people who would understand or relate to that. Are you for real? Are you fucking for real? Especially a fantasy book.
We're having an honest rage reaction, be it that was triggered by, I'll have to say, a spoiled, privileged white male, got it fairly easily, and then the rest of us are looking at it like, what the fuck? And it makes us look harder at the industry.
Especially because he wants to be a fantasy author. And as a fantasy author, can I just tell you, color, like the fantasy world, I know authors who are BIPOC authors who do fucking fantasy, and I can read, I fucking love some of them. Like, I love their books. There's, in the fantasy world, you can do whatever the fuck you want, and it doesn't matter, like, what color, it shouldn't matter what color you are, obviously, and it shouldn't matter what you have to say. And the audacity of these publishers to fucking sit there and say, oh, well, if you're a Black author with a fantasy book, oh, nobody will really relate. But this guy who's, and by the way, he said a little bit about the book he wants to write, and he's like, oh, it's a coming of age story and a quest and a hero. And I'm like, I could give you 6 fucking books right now that are all fucking fantasy books.
Authors working on that, and they give the
exactly. We could give you
real quick. We know tons of authors who have said that, but you know what? We also get more details than what he said, because you just said that. That's less than basic ground laying.
Yeah, and that's the thing, though. I could, like, there's a book series by Tamora Pierce. Fucking love Tamora Pierce. She's one of my favorite authors. She writes this. There's the Lioness series, and it's about a female knight who's trying to go off, and like she doesn't want to be this lady in waiting. She doesn't want to do any of this sorcery shit. She just wants to go off and be a knight. And literally, it's a coming of age story for this young girl who basically fools the system into. She pretends to be a boy. Apt subject here, by the way. She pretends to be a boy so that she can become a knight and fucking fight and do the stuff she wants to do. But she has to do all this lying, and it's this whole journey. And it's a fucking awesome series. And I'm like, I point so many people, anytime I'm talking about fantasy, Tamora Pierce is one of the people I bring up because her fantasy books are fucking awesome. But you're telling me, okay, I'm going to write a coming of age story of a guy character who's trying to go through stuff and it's a quest. Dude, so are 50 other authors. And like half of them are BIPOC authors. So why is this? It's just like the indignity of it. The fact that these publishers are sitting here in one hand telling Black fantasy authors or BIPOC authors, hey, you nobody's going to relate to your shit. But then this guy who does 6 book reviews and is basically showing his face for a fucking month.
Less than a concept. I'm going to say that's less than a concept. You said, Mia. That tells me that. And what about his characters? What makes them unique and special than all the other fucking coming of age characters? Because we got those a day a minute. Because like that whole Aragon book, coming of age. There are just like tons and tons of coming of age books. What the hell makes your coming of age story so damn special? What is, because I'm going to say this as a fantasy author. We have to worry about the world we're putting our characters in. What's unique about that world? What's unique about this? Are there other creatures? Is there what kind of magic system are you dealing with? What type? Because there are 2 types of versions of making a magic system, but in general, there is all this groundwork that has to be laid. And what you just said was less than a concept. That's just like it's like categorizing.
Right. It's basically like I could read the blurb of a book off of a book and be like, okay, this is a hero. It's basically a hero fantasy story. And there's tons of those. And the thing is like, so, but also the fact that like he's saying that he wants to do a 5-book series, that's great, whatever. But again, it's like, and then the publisher, because people did go at the publisher, and the publisher's response was like, well, we just really liked what he did. And he's very he's very passionate. That's great. I love that you want the passionate author, but by the way, all of us are fucking passionate. All of us are fucking here for this shit. Like, this is what we live on. And so it's like, it's just disappointing to say the least. And and then let's talk about, so this is also why a lot of people got upset. The person who acquired the international rights to Bateman's book for Astria Book was Anthea Bariamis, something like that. And so
I couldn't pronounce her name either.
Yeah. So basically people started going at them, right? To be like, okay, but like you guys have been telling us one thing for years, but like why him? And she's like, oh, well, we came across him and he's a big book nerd and we have a long meeting because that's
like
our
fucking book nerds. How come we don't get it?
Crystal, no, this is the good part. This is the good part here. She's like, oh, a writing sample was also provided. A writing sample? A writing sample.
Okay,
the audacity.
And all of our author friends have tons of fucking samples. Heck, those samples are actual books that we busted our asses off of. What do you mean? He gets to submit a small freaking sample. Meanwhile, the rest of us have to write a whole damn book. Screw you, lady.
It's the audacity. Because it's like, because she was basically, because everybody was like, you guys fucking just gave him a 2-book deal for fucking concept. And so she was quick to say,
that's barely categorizing an idea.
He had a writing sample though. Really? Again, publishers for years.
I want to see the sample that she was so impressed by. Because that had to be some really, really good writing.
Right. Because here's the thing. Publishers, again, I'm trying not to focus on Luke Bateman, but publishers for years have been telling us we need to submit whole books that are edited by everybody and their pet dog and their pet parrot.
I'm going to say this real quick so people understand kind of one part real quick. We have to submit the whole kind of concepts in an initial query letter, which is a marketing letter to a literary agent. If the literary agent accepts, and you want more than one to accept to hopefully get a bidding war over your book, but when that happens, you give them the book, and whilst they do the marketing, but you have to give them an actual book.
But usually you have to have the book done. You can't, that's the thing. When we say we have to submit a sample, it's not just a sample. We have to have the whole book done, edited by tons of authors, not authors. We have to have the book edited by tons of editors. We have to have all the stuff. We have to have it basically in published ready form before we can even submit the query letter. And you're telling me you got a writing sample from him and him writing down a few notes of the concept.
Also, because about that writing sample, back to the literary agents, you can only really submit that during certain times when they're accepting your type of book with your query letter and everything. So I'm putting this out because he just did it. He didn't have to check the time. He didn't have to look for a literary agent. Go straight to the publisher. None of us get to go straight to the publisher.
Nobody gets it. Nobody gets it unless you're evidently a famous white guy. So that's the thing. And so it's like, and just, I don't know. I'm not saying he's not authentic, but I'm saying I think there's a lot. And I said this in the first video. He has, well, by the way, I'd like to say thank you for confirming he has a management team because I fucking already knew that.
Well, but we knew it. It's just him being so humble and shocked wasn't more of a screw you, buddy.
And so the thing is like, okay, and again, it could be a great book. We'll see. We'll find out. But the thing is that it's just the fact that publishers have been spending years telling women authors and BIPOC authors, no, sorry, you have to jump through all these hoops. You have to go up a mountain, uphill both ways, and you have to jump through a ring of fire. When you have to jump through a ring of fire, and then maybe you can get to us. But you can't even really do that till you have an agent. But then this guy has a whole fucking marketing, managing team, and he was just able to look pretty and do some book reviews. That's it. That's all he had to do. And so I don't understand why they are confused about how people, because a lot of them were like, we had a troll, by the way. I was talking about this in a live one day, and we had kind of a troll person come in who was like, oh, well, and wanted to have all these questions like, why are you guys so mad? You would take the deal. Well, yeah, of course we would take the fucking deal. But also, it's fucking irritating that we are spending our time trying to go through the system by what the system tells us, but then the system wants to change its mind and just, but this guy looks kind of cute and has been talking for a month.
And he has a really good, not concept.
Exactly. And then writing sample, we have to have our book perfect.
Sample thing makes me too mad because I read it in the thing and I think I blanked it. I'll be honest, I think I blanked it out of my mind because the second I read it, you weren't there, but the second I read it, I was like, what the literal fuck What do you
I
mean
know.
writing sample? You don't even let me get away with a writing sample, and you're not my publisher.
Exactly. And that's the thing, like, we have to do so many things before we can even get our book to a traditional publisher published. But yet, for 1 month, he showed pretty face and had some book reviews. I mean, if that's all it takes, I should have had a fucking book deal like 2 years ago, because I was doing book reviews for the first 6 months to a year that I was on Booktok before I even did the author thing. So, like, in theory, if it's so easy, then I should have a book deal too. No big deal.
Yeah, I should have several book deals because I've written several books. Actually, you should have several book deals because you've written multiple books.
It is just frustrating. And it's like, again, we're not trying to harp on him.
Yeah, this is our Luke Bateman part 2 episode, but this isn't really us hardcore razzing on Luke Bateman because what he says is very ignorant, yes, especially in the writing world. But, you know, we expect that to a degree from someone who hasn't even started writing a book to talk about, oh, I'm excited about a book deal. That is really expected. But really, this whole controversy, and I'm glad actually, I'll be honest with you, I'm grateful he got this book deal, because if he didn't get this book deal, then I feel like a lot of people would still let the industry be more status quo instead of raising our voices saying, listen, you need to stop. You need to give us more of a opportunity.
Yeah. But the thing is, it's like, but I think there's also something to be said for the fact that it does seem like, at the very least, I'm not going to say he's not authentic in wanting to write a book, but I will say
actually want to write a book. He just doesn't know.
I don't trust this innocent, I'm so humble farm boy act he's putting on, because based on his own comments, he was trying to get a book deal, realized he couldn't get it right away, so then used Booktok to get it. So I don't think he's entirely innocent in this. So I'm not gonna.
Well, I told you my family thinks either AI is going to write it or he'll get a ghostwriter. I'm not kidding. They were because I told them, they all busted out laughing. A bunch of them said AI, a bunch of them said ghostwriter. They were really torn between who's going to write an AI or ghostwriter. None of them, I do mean it, Mia. I said, well, he might be thinking of trying. And all of them laughed at me and said, he is not trying, because they know what I've gone through with writing books for years and being an author.
Right.
They were like, we see you doing this, this, and this. And this guy has a concept. They're like, it's going to be AI or a ghostwriter. They would not hear even the idea of him writing it.
I hope he writes it himself. But my thing is, it's just like, I am not going to give him the trust that he's trying to get right now from people of, oh, I'm just this humble farm boy, and I don't, because clearly, at the very least, let's put it this way. At the very least, he is a good businessman. He understood that he had to get some traction, because if you're in the media world, you understand getting some traction, whether it's good or bad, gets your name out there. So he understood, okay, they don't want to hear from me because he is a rugby player, and they're like, oh, what is he going to write about, kind of thing. So he was like, okay, talked to his management company, made a plan, got on Booktok, and it went real good. Congratulations to you, sir. You played the system. You did a great job. But what I think the biggest point here, again, besides him trying to play the system and be innocent farm boy, I think that I am also glad he did this, because I think it points out that publishers have motherfucking been lying to us. They have been lying straight out. They have literally been telling us, you have to do this, this, and this. But hey, and they try to say, well, social media doesn't kind of matter, but clearly it does. Clearly, they are very motivated by social media. Yeah. So you have to be the right kind of person, I guess, to get it. But it's just like, then stop lying to us. Then just say, okay, you have to get 2 million views in a month. If you can do that, or hell, in 2 days to a week, he had it in a week. So hey, just tell us you need 2 million views. We'll work on trying to get the views. But supposedly they want us to have materials that are worthy of their merit, but yet they're just handing golden tickets away. Like, it's ridiculous. Yeah.
It's tiresome. And it's because we love writing. Mia's working on several books right now, including an awesome dragon book. I am working on several books right now that Mia wishes I would change the name to Christmas STD, but I'm not.
I mean, I didn't actually say STD. I just said you should put that in the blurb somewhere, I think.
No, you wanted me to change it once I told you about the magic STD.
Oh, did I? Okay, well, I forgot about that. But also, now that you've reminded me, you should probably change that. Anyways.
No. You campaigned hard for the original name. It's going to be that name.
But it's just, the thing is, it's like, it's frustrating when you're told one thing, and then somebody comes out there and shows you that nope, as long as you have money and a team behind you, you can get whatever the fuck you want. You don't actually need to work hard. You just have to have
Easy
contact.
Street, where I wanna be.
So anyways, I mean, is there anything we can say about this that we haven't already ranted about?
Subject to death. There's really, I think it's better we spent this more talking about the real issue here than complaining about Luke Bateman. Because did what Luke Bateman say aggravate me? Yes, it did aggravate me because it just showed pure arrogance. It taught me that when I got into this field, I did research. It took me months and months of do research because there are a lot. And if you watch my YouTube channel, I did a video on this. There are these people called vanity publishers. There are a lot of vanity publishers who mislead you. It takes a while to do research. You have to literally figure out how to find book events, connect with other book authors, all of that, to really get an idea of how the industry works, especially if you didn't go to college for it. And even if you went to college for it, there are still a lot of hoops to jump through. And what me and I are trying to emphasize really with this episode is people have this misconception of how the book world works. They think you get so many rejections, then you get accepted. No, sometimes those rejections never stop. There are a lot of people, I'll be honest, we've met a lot of extremely, extremely talented authors. In general, across the board, we have met many, many talented authors, and nobody will give them the time of day. They're like us, working every day nonstop on their stories, trying to figure out marketing, trying to figure out the almighty algorithms and everything, just to try to get their stories out there. And it's a huge struggle. So I'll be honest, here's how his thing would have been if he had just stopped talking early. If Luke Bateman said, I did this, I went to a publishing company after I was on TikTok and they offered me a deal, we would have probably been all like, well, you had a good marketing team and stuff. But then he said, I'm so humble. I was not expecting to get it. That makes everybody pause. And we're like, what the literal freak? Because
especially when he was very careful, but he was also very careful because, like I said, there was only the Yahoo article where he talked about the fact that he even went to an editor 6 months before he went to Booktok. So it's like the fact that he's hiding that now and he's being very careful not to say it. And even the video where he misspoke about barriers of entry, which is gone or hiding or somewhere. But like the fact that he's been trying to kind of push down the fact that he is this guy who has money and a marketing team and a management team, and he has all these connections, like it's a lot like, just be honest. Just say, hey, I'm a rich white guy who's had a lot of blessings with connections, and I managed to get it. And that's great for you. Like, just be honest. But like,
if he said his marketing team had helped him, we would have been like, well, we're not surprised.
But it's like just playing the humble farm boy thing. It's like, okay. And I'm not saying that's not a part of him, but it's like, why are you trying so hard to seem like, well, I'm for the little people. That's why you should love me. But really,
TV show star, I do not believe he's that humble, but that's besides the point. Besides me, and we can outrage all we want via the industry, but nothing's going to protect Luke Bateman from the butterfly review.
Anyways. But it's just but the good thing is, I mean, like I said, there is one good thing here, which is that the industry now has, like, even the fact that this is now in newspapers and articles and news media, like, I like that. I like the fact that they're pointing out, especially the book, because now it's come out that people on Booktok are upset. So then the media was like, well, why is Booktok mad? Like, don't they love him? So then they all went into it. So now it's out there that a lot of Booktok people have been told this one thing of, you have to do all this shit to get there, and it clearly wasn't true. It just wasn't true. And so now the truth is coming out that, like, the traditional publishing media companies, the traditional publishing companies are still doing what they've always done, which is to cherry pick what they think society wants, not what society might actually want to read if they were exposed to it. Maybe they do want to read about an African tribe that has fucking magical people and does this, that, and the other. Like, how do they know they don't want to read it if they've never fucking read it before? Or what about some of the Asian folklore that has fucking fascinating myths in it. Like, how do you know people don't want to read this shit unless you put it the fuck out there? But you guys are like, no, we only want to expose our readers to certain, well, no, fuck that. Expose your readers to everything. And if they don't like it, they won't buy it. But at least give them the fucking chance. Start bringing some of the equality.
Sticking to remakes of every damn thing.
Well, also, but like, bring some equality into this shit. The fact that 80% of this field is fucking white is not okay. Like, this, there's tons of fucking minorities. There's tons of cultures. There's literally 100, like, tons of languages. How are you telling me that there's 80% white authors, but there's tons of people? So how? How is it only because you guys are fucking cherry picking? You need to stop cherry picking.
Needs to focus on working the way the real world is. Have something from everybody. Only reject the books that are actually freaking bad. And also, while I'm on this, stop promoting the fucking books that are actually freaking bad. My God, I have read some books of the year that are, what the fuck? How did this get published? This is the worst piece of dookie I ever read.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, everybody's going to have a different idea about books they read and write, right? Like, everybody's going to have different feelings. But the thing is, if you're not putting stuff into the mainstream, then how are people going to know if they like it or hate it if you're not putting it out there? And that's the problem. That is the biggest problem. Like, fuck Luke Bateman, whatever. He's going to write a book. That's great for him. Congratulations. But, like, you guys, you, the publishing world, you traditional, which probably means I'll never get a book published now. But anyways, I'm good. You, the traditional publishing companies, need to stop gatekeeping fucking books. Books are knowledge is books is power for every. It's supposed to be for everybody. Stop fucking gatekeeping shit. Stop trying to hold people back.
Everyone, not just a select few of the population.
But that's the thing. They're still doing the gatekeeping shit. And it's like they were doing it for years and getting away with it because society wasn't allowed to have, like, women weren't allowed to have opinions. People weren't allowed to talk up because it was considered rude. But now I'm so glad that we have Booktok and we have all these places that are like, no, why aren't you publishing this book about a sorcerer who lives in Asia, who's having China or Tokyo or Japan, who's doing all this stuff? Like, why aren't you publishing this shit? Why aren't you putting stuff out there? Because you guys are still acting like it's okay, the shit you pulled on Anne Rice and everybody else, that shit is so acceptable, and it's not. It is not acceptable. You need to change your fucking business plans because you trying to keep people in the dark about the kind of literature that's out there is bullshit, and it needs to stop.
Yeah, because the good thing about social media is I feel since authors are expressing our outrage about this, I think it's finally getting more eyes on what we go through instead of everything just being everybody else's assumption.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that I'm hoping this brings a lot of attention, and I'm hoping that people realize that, like, half of these getting these traditional publishing companies changed is we need to put pressure on them. We need to keep asking them, where's this book about this? What about this culture? What about this culture? What about, like, this tribe? What about this people? Why aren't we seeing this? Why don't you show us? Like, I know for a fact that there's books about every goddamn thing out there because I've seen them and I've heard authors talk about them. So why aren't you going to push this shit out there? Like, one of our authors, I think wasn't it E.A. Noble, who did the bubble, what was it? The double, double.
Bubble. 1 second, I have the book.
Okay.
Give me 1 second. I will
because I love her series. Like, I love
I'm
that.
I'm review it, Mia. Don't tell EA.
I won't, but I just need the title of it.
1 second. It was Bubblegum something.
It is. Oh, Bubblegum Superheroes, right?
Super-sized Bubblegum.
Super-sized Bubblegum.
I can't wait to read that. It's about these plus-size women who get superpowers through chewing bubblegum. I'm actually going to slap the book cover right here.
Right. And I actually cannot wait. I cannot wait to read this. It's on my TBR. I just haven't gotten to it yet because I've been focused on writing. But I can't wait because this is about, I believe it's 4 black chicks who are plus size, who are ready to kick ass and put names. And I think some of them, they're not all straight, are they? One of them straight, one of them.
No, they're not all straight.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's different gender, like there's different like fluidity to who they are. And I was so, when she told me about this in a live, I fucking love the concept. And
we need to lure EA onto our channel.
Oh, we will. Oh, don't worry. She's already on my list. But like, here's my thing is like, E.A. Noble, who is a Black author who has a book, Supersized
Bubblegum.
Supersized Bubblegum. This is a book that's I've never fucking heard of this before. What? I would love to read it, but people don't know about it because EA is not mainstream or traditionally published. So, by the way, go look EA Noble up. We'll drop her link in the
We're going to put her
description.
link down there. She writes so many interesting books. She told us about a concept. She also said she was going to put our pen names in a book, and I'm kind of scared considering what she was writing, but I'm excited at the same time. I'm not going to tell you about it because this isn't this kind of, well,
she also has, one of the things I love about EA is that she also has a Substack where she has, and I need to get my Substack up and going, but she has a Substack where she releases interesting videos about it's not, what is the fucking word for African American English and the historic uses of it. Isn't it just African American English, or am I wrong? I think there's another word too.
Yeah, it's just basically because you take the Black population, obviously another form of English evolved from that. But I can never remember the name of it. But I can tell you many of our viewers have heard of it.
We will get her on here because I really want to, I want to interview her about that.
When she started talking to me about it in depth, I was like, yeah, you are so right about that.
Exactly.
We need to target EA Mia. We need to target her and bring her to our show. Because when she and I had a conversation about this, it was like, yeah, that is very, very important.
EA's going to be like, what do you guys want? Why are you all bugging me? Anyways.
EA, don't ask why we're putting you back of the trunk. Just go for it.
But see, there's my example right there, is that here is EA, who has been working her butt off to like do this book series. And she's been like, she did this supersized bubblegum, which is a fucking interesting concept. But you know what? It's not traditionally published because anybody could have picked up her book and given her a book deal. Did they? No. But yet the white guy who's been on here for a month, who did a few book reviews, no. Clearly he knows where the mainstream is at.
Yeah, he has concepts of books. Concepts and dreams.
We're just kidding. I think we're just being ranty about the same topic. So anyways, you guys, we love you. Please like and subscribe. Please
comment, subscribe.
Right? Watch the other videos. Like I said, we're going to have some really interesting videos coming up. And also we got to lure EA on here. So we got plans.
Her on here. My word, EA is coming on this channel.
So we got to get her. So anyways, you guys, thank you for listening. We appreciate you. Please like, please subscribe. Leave us comments. We fucking love comments. Not enough people leaving us comments, so please leave us the comments. But anyways, thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you. And hey, if you feel up to it, go write a letter to Simon & Schuster Atria and to express your discomfort with the fact that they don't like anybody who's not pretty and has been on The Bachelor.
Yeah, or tell them about your concept of a book. Right? I'm sure they'll
yeah, everybody should send them a concept. We should totally do that.
Dreams and concepts. Anyway, I'm sorry. Anyway, Luke, when he said that, I couldn't resist.
Anyways, you guys, we love you. Thank you so much. And we will talk to you guys next week.
Okay, bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.